The alarm made a soft sound in the monitoring station. Commander Zethkari looked up from his reports. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he read the display. After 30 years of watching empty space, something was finally happening. "Sir," called Technician Yilmaz from across the room. "We have a signal from the Sol system." Zethkari stood up from his chair. His tall, thin body moved like a reed in the wind. The Altarians were a peaceful people. They had long necks, gray skin, and hands with 6 fingers. Like most species in the Galactic Confederation, they had evolved from plant eaters who learned to think instead of fight. Sol system? Zethkari walked to the main screen. "Isn't that the yellow star with the rocky planets?" "Yes, sir, we marked it as having basic life forms." "Nothing important." Yilmaz touched the controls with his thin fingers. "But this signal is different. It's organized, complex. Someone down there is trying to talk." The commander felt his heart beat faster. First contact was rare. Most species took millions of years to develop space travel. Finding a new thinking species was the greatest honor for any Confederation officer. "What kind of signal?" he asked. "Multiple types, sir. Radio waves, digital patterns, even some kind of laser communications." And Sir ... Omek paused. "There are a lot of them. Hundreds of different signals coming from the third planet." Zethkari nodded. This was normal. When a species first learned to communicate across distances, they usually made many different types of signals. The Altarians had done the same thing long ago. "Begin standard first contact protocol," he ordered. "Record everything." "We need to learn their language before we make contact." For the next several days, the monitoring station worked without stopping. The translation computers tried to understand the human signals. Slowly, patterns began to form, words became clear. Then sentences. Then entire conversations. What they found made Zethkari very confused. "Sir," Yilmaz called out on the 4th day, "I think you need to see this." The commander came to the technician's station. On the screen were translated human broadcasts. Zethkari read them carefully. His eyes grew wide. "These can't be right," he said. "Check the translation again." "I've checked it 10 times, sir." "The computer is certain. These humans, they make entertainment about war. Look at this." Yilmaz pointed to the screen. "This broadcast is about humans fighting each other with weapons. But it's not real. They made it up for fun." Zethkari stared at the screen. The translation showed descriptions of something humans called movies and video games. Stories about conflict, about fighting, about killing. And humans enjoyed watching these things. "There must be an error," the commander said. "No thinking species makes entertainment about violence. It goes against all natural development." But as the days passed, more evidence appeared. The humans had something called sports, where they competed against each other. They had history that was full of wars between different groups of humans. They had military organizations whose only job was to fight. Most shocking of all, their first response to discovering other life in space was not wonder or peace. It was fear and preparation for war. "Sir," Yilmaz said one morning, "I found something very strange. The humans have been sending signals into space for decades. But listen to what they're saying." The speakers played a translated human broadcast. "If anyone is out there, we hope you come in peace. But if you don't, we'll be ready." Zethkari felt cold. In all his years studying first contact protocols, he had never heard of a species that assumed aliens might be hostile. Every known species had reached out with friendship and trust. "Keep monitoring," he ordered. "We need to understand these ... humans before we report to the Confederation." More disturbing facts came to light. The humans had weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They called them nuclear bombs, and they had pointed them at each other for decades. Yet somehow they had never used them. This showed both terrible destructive power and surprising control. The humans also did, something no other species had ever done. They had reached their own moon not through slow, careful development, but because they were competing with each other. They had turned exploration into a race, a competition. Commander, Yomuk said, his voice shaking. I found their military communications. They're not just preparing for space travel, they're preparing for space war. Every ship they're building has weapons. Every plan they make includes combat scenarios. Zethkari read the translated documents. Human military leaders were discussing something called fleet tactics and strategic defense. They were planning how to fight enemies they had never met. They assumed that first contact would mean first conflict. This is impossible, the commander whispered. How did a species like this develop space travel? How did they not destroy themselves? The answer came from studying their history. The humans had nearly destroyed themselves many times. They had fought wars that killed millions. They had created weapons that could end all life on their planet, but each time they had pulled back from total destruction. Each time they had learned to work together just enough to survive, and each time they had become stronger. Sir, Yomak said quietly, there's something else. The humans have a saying. They repeat it in many of their military documents. What is it? If you want peace, prepare for war. Zethkari felt his legs go weak. He sat down heavily in his chair. This went against everything the Confederation knew about intelligent development. Peaceful species survived and grew. Violent species destroyed themselves. It was a law of nature, but here were the humans, violent, competitive, aggressive, and not only had they survived, they were thriving. They were spreading to other planets in their system. They were building a space fleet. They were preparing to meet the galaxy as warriors, not as friends. Commander, Yomak said. What should we do? The Confederation Council needs to know about this. But how do we explain it? How do we tell them that we found a species of apex predators? Zethkari finished. The words felt strange in his mouth. We found the first thinking species that evolved from hunters instead of prey. He looked at the screen showing Earth. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful from space. But now he knew what lived there. Creatures that had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain. Beings that saw conflict as natural. A species that had turned war into an art form, and they were getting ready to leave their world. Send a priority message to the Confederation Council, Zethkari ordered. Tell them we've made first contact with a new species, but warn them. These humans are unlike anything we've ever encountered. They don't just have weapons. They think like weapons. As Yomak prepared the message, Zethkari stared at the human signals still coming through space. Somewhere out there, humans were building ships and training soldiers and planning for a future among the stars. They weren't coming as explorers or traders or diplomats. They were coming as warriors. The signal was clear. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy. And they were armed. Zethkari wondered if the peaceful species of the Confederation were ready to meet their first spacefaring predator. He had a feeling the galaxy was about to change forever. The soft alarm sounded again. More human signals were coming in. Always more signals. The humans never seemed to sleep. They never seemed to stop preparing. They never seemed to stop watching. The sky and getting ready for whatever might come down from it. Zethkari shivered. For the first time in his life, he understood what fear meant. And for the first time, he wondered if the Confederation's long peace was about to end. The Confederation Council chamber was quiet, too quiet. Ambassador Veltar of the Zeridian Empire looked around the great circular room. 47 different species sat in their floating chairs, all staring at the holographic display in the center. The display showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, Earth, home of the humans. The report from Commander Zethkari is troubling, said High Counselor Murthek. His tentacles moved slowly as he spoke. The Aquarian leader had lived for 300 years and had never seen anything like this. Troubling? Ambassador Veltar's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. It's impossible. A species cannot achieve space travel while maintaining such aggressive tendencies. They should have destroyed themselves long ago. Yet here they are, said Counselor Yindar of the Crystal Folk. Her crystalline body rang softly like music when she moved. Building ships, preparing weapons. getting ready to leave their world. High Counselor Murthek raised one tentacle for silence. The question before us is simple. Do we make contact? And if so, how? We must follow standard first contact protocol, said Ambassador Thexan of the Verdant Collective. His plant-like body swayed gently. We approach with peaceful intentions. We offer knowledge and friendship. We welcome them into the galactic community. But what if they respond with violence? Asked Counselor Yindar. What if they see our approach as a threat? Impossible, Thexan replied. No species responds to peaceful contact with aggression. It goes against all natural law. Valtar was not so sure. She had read Zethkari's full report. The humans were different. Very different. They had nuclear weapons pointed at their own planet for decades. They made entertainment about war. They assumed all contact would be hostile. I volunteer to lead the delegation, Valtar said suddenly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Ambassador, High Counselor Murthek said carefully, are you certain? This species appears to be ... unpredictable. That's exactly why I should go, Valtar replied. The Zeridians have the strongest defensive shields in the Confederation. If these humans do respond with aggression, my ship can protect the delegation. It was true. The Zeridians had developed the best defensive technology in known space. Their shields could stop any weapon the Confederation had ever seen. It was perfect for peaceful exploration and defense. Very well, Murthek decided. Ambassador, Veltar will lead a small delegation to make first contact with the humans. Standard peaceful approach. Offer friendship and knowledge. 3 days later, Veltar's ship, the Harmony of Worlds, left Confederation space. It was a beautiful vessel, smooth and flowing like a work of art. It had no weapons. None were needed. The Confederation had been at peace for over 1,000 years. The ship traveled for 2 weeks before reaching the edge of human space. As they approached, Veltar felt nervous. She had made first contact with 17 different species. All had gone smoothly. All had ended in friendship and celebration, but none of those species had been like the humans. Ambassador, called Navigator Kickstall from his station. We're receiving signals from the human system. Multiple signals. What kind of signals? Warning signals, ma'am. They're telling us to stop and identify ourselves. They're scanning us with some kind of military sensor. Veltar felt her heart skip. Military sensors? On a peaceful first contact? Send standard greeting, she ordered. Tell them. We come in peace. We wish to talk and become friends. The reply came quickly, too quickly, as if the humans had been waiting for this moment. Unknown vessel, you will stop and maintain current position. Any movement toward our system will be considered hostile. A fleet is being dispatched to meet you. A fleet? Veltar stared at the communication display. Did they say fleet? Yes, ma'am, an ambassador. Our sensors are detecting multiple ships leaving the third planet. They're moving very fast. Faster than any Confederation vessel. Veltar watched her display as red dots appeared on the screen. 1 dot became 5, then 10, then 20. The humans were sending an entire battle group to meet 3 peaceful ambassadors. Ma'am, Navigation Officer Kickstall said quietly, these ships are armed, heavily armed. I'm reading missile tubes, kinetic weapons, energy cannons. These aren't exploration vessels. These are warships. That's impossible, Veltar whispered. No species builds pure warships anymore. Every ship has multiple purposes. Science, trade, diplomacy. Not these ships, ma'am. These ships are built for one thing only, fighting. As the human fleet approached, Veltar got her first good look at their technology. The ships were angular and brutal. All sharp edges and armor plating. They looked like they had been designed by someone who expected to be shot at. The lead ship was massive. Twice the size of the Harmony of Worlds and covered in weapon ports. Its name was painted on the side in bold letters, UES Indomitable. Unknown. Vessel, came a new voice over the radio. This is Admiral Sarah Shun of the United Earth Space Command. You will identify yourselves and state your intentions. Veltar had never heard a voice like that before. It was hard, cold, ready for trouble. This Admiral Chun sounded like someone who had been in battles before. Admiral Chun, Veltar replied. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace. We wish to welcome humanity to the galactic community. There was a long pause, then Admiral Chun spoke again. Galactic Confederation? Prove it. Send us your technical specifications, crew manifest, and mission parameters. Any hostile action will result in immediate defensive response. Veltar felt confused. Admiral, we are not hostile. We are diplomats. We come offering friendship. Ma'am. Chun replied, I don't know you. I don't know your confederation, and I don't know if you're telling the truth. Until I do, you're a potential threat to my species. So you'll forgive me if I keep my weapons ready? This was not how first contact was supposed to work. Where were the scientists? Where were the philosophers? Where were the peaceful leaders who wanted to learn about the universe? Admiral Veltar. Try it again. Please understand. The Confederation represents 47 peaceful species. We have been exploring space for thousands of years. We have never encountered a hostile first contact. Well, congratulations, Chun replied. You just met your first species that doesn't take strangers at face value. Now, are you going to provide those specifications, or do we have a problem? Veltar looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her with wide eyes. None of them had training for this situation. How do you conduct diplomacy with someone who assumes you might be lying? Send them our basic information, she ordered. Ship. Design, crew names, peaceful mission statement. The humans studied the data for 30 minutes. During that time, their fleet maintained perfect formation around the harmony of worlds. Veltar noticed that every human ship had its weapons pointed outward, ready to fight in any direction. Finally, Admiral Chun's voice returned. Your ship checks out as non-military. Your crew appears to be genuine diplomats, but I have questions, lots of questions. We would be happy to answer them, Admiral. First question. Your ship has no weapons, none at all. How do you defend yourselves? Veltar blinked in confusion. Defend from what, Admiral? Space is peaceful. There are no threats. Another long pause. No threats? Chun asked. What about pirates? Raiders, hostile aliens, territorial disputes? Such things do not exist, Admiral. All known species are peaceful. The galaxy has been at peace for over 1,000 years. The silence that followed was so long that Veltar wondered if the communication had been cut. When Chun finally spoke, her voice sounded different, surprised. You're serious, you really believe that? It is not belief, Admiral, it is fact. Violence between species simply does not happen. Lady, Chun said slowly, where I come from, violence happens every day. Humans fight humans, nations fight nations. Even families fight families. And the first rule of survival is to assume that anyone you meet might want to hurt you. Veltar felt a chill run through her body. These humans lived in constant fear of each other. No wonder they had built such terrible weapons. Admiral, she said gently, that is not how civilized species behave. Once a species develops space travel, they leave such primitive behaviors behind. Chun laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Primitive? Lady, where I come from, the only thing that keeps the peace is the fact that everyone knows what happens. If you break it, we call it peace through strength. You don't fight your neighbor because you know your neighbor can fight back. But surely, Veltar protested, intelligent beings can solve problems without violence? Sometimes, Chun agreed. When both sides want to solve the problem. But what happens when one side just wants to take what the other side has? What happens when talking doesn't work? Veltar had no answer. In all her years of diplomacy, such situations had never occurred. Every species the Confederation had met wanted the same things: knowledge, friendship, and peaceful trade. Admiral, she finally said, would you be willing to meet in person? Perhaps we can better understand each other face to face. Maybe, Chun replied, but it'll be on my ship. With my security team present. An ambassador? My people will be armed. That's not negotiable, armed guards at a diplomatic meeting. Veltar had never heard of such a thing. But if this was what it took to begin peaceful relations with humanity, she would accept it. Ambassador Veltar stepped through the airlock onto the human ship. Everything was wrong. The walls were thick metal. The lights were harsh and bright. Armed soldiers in strange uniforms stood at attention in the hallway. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable," said Admiral Chun. She was shorter than Veltar expected, with dark hair and hard eyes. "My security team will escort you to the meeting room." The soldiers carried weapons Veltar had never seen before. Black metal objects that looked designed for one purpose only, killing. She noticed how the humans moved, always watching. Always. Ready, like predators expecting trouble. The meeting room was unlike any diplomatic chamber Veltar knew. No comfortable chairs or decorative art, just a metal table, bright lights, and guards at every door. 2 other humans sat at the table. A woman in a white coat and a man in a dark suit. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, our xenobiologist," Admiral Chun said. "And Director Marcus Webb from Earth Intelligence. They'll help us understand each other better." Veltar sat carefully. The chair was hard and uncomfortable. "Thank you for agreeing to meet, Admiral. I hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Admiral Chun sat across from her. "Maybe that depends on a lot of things. First, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with here. This confederation of yours, how big is it? How powerful? What do you want from us?" The questions came like bullets, fast and hard. Veltar had never been questioned like this during first contact. "The Confederation represents 47 species. Across 12 star systems," she began. "We are a peaceful alliance dedicated to knowledge sharing and mutual prosperity. We want nothing from you except friendship." Director Webb leaned forward. 47 species? And they all get along? No conflicts? No wars? No territorial disputes? "None," Veltar replied. "Such things ended long ago. All civilized species learn to live in peace." Dr. Vasquez made notes on a strange flat device. "Interesting. What happens when 2 species want the same resource, the same planet? We share, we cooperate, we find solutions that benefit everyone." Admiral Chun shook her head. "That's not how reality works. Someone always wants more than their fair share. Someone always tries to take what belongs to others." "Perhaps that is true for humans," Veltar said carefully. "But other species have evolved beyond such primitive behaviors." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Admiral Chun's eyes got harder. "Primitive?" She repeated quietly. Veltar realized she had made a mistake. "I did not mean to offend, Admiral. I simply meant that most species learn to resolve conflicts peacefully." "And how exactly do they do that?" Director Webb asked. "What happens when talking doesn't work?" "Talking always works. When both sides are reasonable, solutions can always be found." The 3 humans looked at each other. Something passed between them that Veltar didn't understand. "Ambassador," Dr. Vasquez said slowly, "what if one side isn't reasonable? What if they don't want to talk? What if they just want to take what they want by force?" Veltar felt confused. "Such situations do not arise. All spacefaring species are rational and peaceful." "All 47 of them?" Admiral Chun asked. "Yes, and they all evolved the same way? They all developed the same peaceful nature?" "Of course. It is the natural path of intelligent development. Species that remain violent destroy themselves before achieving space travel." Admiral Chun stood up and walked to a wall display. She touched it and images appeared. Pictures of Earth's history, cities in ruins, soldiers fighting, nuclear explosions. "This is human history," she said. 5,000 years of war, millions dead in conflicts. We fought with swords, guns, bombs, and weapons that could end all life on our planet. Veltar stared at the images in horror. "How did you survive?" "Because we learned that the only thing that stops a bully is someone who can hit back harder," Admiral Chun replied. "We learned that peace isn't the natural state of things. Peace is something you have to fight for." "But surely," Veltar protested, Once you developed space travel, you left such behaviors behind? Dr. Vasquez laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ambassador, we didn't develop space travel despite being violent. We developed it because we're competitive. We reached the moon because two human nations were racing each other. We built better rockets because we were trying to build better weapons. Our entire space program started as a military project, Director Webb added. Every human colony is fortified. Every human ship is armed. Because we know that sooner or later we'll meet something that wants to hurt us. Veltar felt sick. You've turned space exploration into preparation for war. No, Admiral Chun corrected. We've turned space exploration into survival, because that's what it is. You and your Confederation friends might think the universe is safe and friendly, but humans know better. What do you mean? Admiral Chun returned to her seat. Tell me about your 47 species. What do they all have in common? Veltar thought carefully. They are all peaceful. They all value cooperation over competition. They all seek knowledge and understanding. And what did they evolve from? Herbivores. Mostly, some omnivores. All species that learned survival through hiding or cooperation rather than aggression. Prey species? Admiral Chun said quietly. I beg your pardon? Every one of your 47 species evolved from prey animals. Creatures that survived by running away or hiding or working together against predators. Veltar felt uncomfortable. That is a crude way to describe it, but essentially correct. And humans? Dr. Vasquez answered. Humans evolved from persistence. Hunters were predators, Ambassador. We're the species that other animals ran from. The room fell silent. Veltar stared at the three humans, finally understanding what made them so different. Every species in the Confederation had learned to survive by avoiding conflict. Humans had learned to survive by winning it. This explains much, she said finally. Your weapons. Your suspicion, your assumption that contact would be hostile? It also explains why we're still alive, Director Webb said. While your species were learning to hide from danger, we were learning to face it. But you've achieved peace among yourselves, Veltar pointed out. Surely that proves you can evolve beyond violence. Admiral Chun shook her head. We haven't achieved peace. We've achieved balance. Every human nation has enough weapons to destroy the others, so none of them dare start a fight they can't win. You maintain peace through the threat of war? We maintain peace through strength, through making sure that anyone who wants to hurt us knows the price will be too high. Veltar struggled to understand. But this means you could return to war at any time. Yes, all three humans said together. And this doesn't frighten you? What frightens us, Admiral Chun said, is being defenseless when something dangerous shows up. Because something dangerous always shows up eventually, Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. Ambassador, in all your Confederation's history, have you ever encountered a truly hostile species? Something that couldn't be reasoned with? No, as I said, all spacefaring species are peaceful. Or, Director Webb suggested, all the non-peaceful species destroyed themselves before you met them. Ever think of that? Veltar had not thought of that. The idea was disturbing. There's another possibility, Admiral Chun said quietly. Maybe. The reason your galaxy has been peaceful for 1,000 years is because all the real predators are gone. Maybe you've been living in a garden protected by high walls, never realizing that something built those walls. What do you mean? I mean, maybe something or someone has been keeping the dangerous things away from you. And maybe that protection is about to end. Veltar felt cold. You think there are hostile species out there? I think the universe is a big place, Admiral Chun replied. And I think assuming everyone is friendly is a good way to get killed. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Veltar learned about human concepts like strategy, tactics, and deterrence. She heard about their military academies where they studied the art of war. She discovered that humans had contingency plans for dozens of different types of alien contact, most of them hostile, but she also learned something else. Despite their violent nature, humans were capable of incredible cooperation when facing external threats. They could put aside their differences and work together against common enemies. They had done it many times in their history. "So, Admiral," Chun said as the meeting ended, "what happens now?" "I must report to the Confederation Council," Veltar replied. "They need to know what humanity is like. And what will you tell them?" Veltar considered carefully. "I will tell them that we have met our first apex predator species, and that this may not be the peaceful first contact we expected." Admiral Chun nodded. "Fair enough, and Ambassador? When you talk to your council, tell them something else." "What?" "Tell them that humanity is willing to be friends, but we're also ready to be enemies. The choice is theirs." As Veltar returned to her ship, she thought about everything she had learned. The humans were unlike anything in the Confederation's experience. They were dangerous, suspicious, and always ready for war, but they were also strong, determined, and capable of protecting those they cared about. For the first time in her life, Veltar wondered if the galaxy's long peace had made the Confederation soft and weak, and she wondered what would happen when something truly dangerous. The emergency signal reached the Confederation Council at 0347 Galactic Standard Time. High Counselor Murthek was pulled from his sleep by the urgent alarm. His tentacles shook as he read the message. "Kepler 442b monitoring station destroyed. All contact lost, cause unknown." Within hours, more reports came in. The Verdant Collective's outer colonies had gone silent. 3 research stations in the Altarian system were no longer responding. Ships sent to investigate simply vanished. Murthek called an emergency session. The council chamber filled quickly as representatives hurried in from across the galaxy. Fear was something most of them had never felt before. Now it filled the room like a cold fog. "The attacks began 6 hours ago," reported Defense Coordinator Hicksnall. His crystalline body flickered with nervous energy. "We've lost contact with 17 installations across 4 systems. Attacks?" Ambassador Thexan plant body swayed anxiously. "Who would attack us?" "All known species are peaceful." "Unknown species," Hicksnall replied. "Our sensors show massive ships, black hulls, no response to communication attempts. They destroy everything they encounter." Counselor Yindar's musical voice rang with worry. "What do our defense fleets report?" Hicksnall's light dimmed. "The defense fleets are gone, all of them. These attackers use weapons we've never seen. Our shields can't stop them. Our ships can't fight them." Silence fell over the chamber. For 1,000 years, the Confederation had known only peace. Their ships were built for exploration and trade. Their weapons were designed for asteroid mining and scientific research. No one had prepared for real war. "How many ships do these attackers have?" asked Murthek. "Intelligence estimates several thousand. They move in perfect formation, like a swarm of insects. They consume everything in their path." Ambassador Veltar spoke from her seat. She had returned from meeting the humans just days ago. "High Counselor, we must contact the humans immediately." The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Many species spoke at once, their words mixing into confusion. "The humans?" Thexan's branches shook. "Those violent primitives? How could they help?" "Because," Veltar said loudly, "they understand war. They've been preparing for this their entire existence." "Preparing for what?" Yindar asked. "For exactly this situation. For meeting something hostile that doesn't want to talk." Murthek raised a tentacle for quiet. Ambassador Veltar explained, "The humans told me something during our meeting. They said that assuming everyone is friendly is a good way to die. They said that something dangerous always shows up eventually. And you believe they can help us fight these these things?" "I believe they're the only ones who can help us. Every human ship is a warship. Every human colony is fortified. They've spent their entire history learning how to fight." Defense Coordinator Hicksnall flickered urgently. "With respect, Ambassador, how could one species stand against such overwhelming force? These attackers have destroyed everything we've sent against them." "Because," Veltar said, "the humans don't just run away when something tries to hurt them. They bite back." The debate continued for hours. Many counselors refused to believe that the peaceful galaxy they knew could be under real threat. Others argued that asking violent humans for help would make things worse. Finally, as reports of more destroyed colonies came in, Murthic made the decision. Send a priority message to Admiral Chun. Request immediate military assistance. The message reached Admiral Chun aboard the Indomitable 12 hours later. She was studying tactical displays when the communication came through. Admiral, her communications officer reported, priority message from the Confederation. They're requesting military aid. Chun read the message twice. When she finished, she called her senior staff to the command center. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, we have a situation. The Confederation is under attack by an unknown hostile force. They're asking for our help. Colonel Martinez, her chief of staff, looked surprised. The Confederation? Those peaceful aliens who think war is impossible? The same ones. And according to their message, they've lost 17 installations and multiple defense fleets in less than 24 hours. What kind of enemy are we talking about? Asked Captain Thompson. Her tactical officer Chun displayed the Confederation's intelligence reports. Large black ships? Weapons that can punch through any known shield. They don't respond to communication. They just destroy everything they encounter. Sounds like a conquering force, Martinez observed. Take everything, leave nothing behind. That's what I'm thinking. The question is, do we help them? Commander Singh, her science officer, spoke up. Admiral, if these attackers can destroy Confederation defenses so easily, what makes us think we can stop them? Chun smiled grimly. Because the Confederation has never really fought a war, they don't know how. But we do. She turned to the tactical display showing human space. The Confederation species all evolved from prey animals. When they meet a predator, their instinct is to hide or run away. But humans evolve differently. We fight, Thompson said. We fight, and more importantly, we know how to fight smart. Send a message to Fleet Command. I want every available warship moved to the Confederation border. This is now a combat operation. What about the Confederation's request? Martinez asked. Send them a simple reply. Help is coming. Hold your positions if possible. Admiral Chen commanding. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the edge of Confederation space. 12 ships, smaller than the Confederation vessels but covered in weapons and armor. They looked exactly like what they were, instruments of war. The Confederation survivors were gathered at a defense station called Haven Point. It was one of the few installations still intact. Ambassador Veltar met Admiral Chun in the station's command center. Admiral, Veltar said, her voice shaking. Thank you for coming, but I fear you may be too late. These attackers, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. Tell me everything. Chun ordered. Veltar activated the station's displays. They call themselves the Void Swarm. They appeared from empty space beyond our borders. Thousands of ships, all black, all identical. They destroy everything they encounter and strip the planets bare. Any communication attempts? None successful? They seem to have no interest in talking. They just consume. Chun studied the tactical data. The enemy ships were indeed massive. Each one was larger than her flagship. And there were so many of them. What kind of weapons do they use? Energy beams that cut through our strongest shields. Projectiles that explode with tremendous force, and something else. Veltar paused. They release clouds of small ships, like insects swarming over their prey. Fighter craft, Chun realized. They use carriers and fighters. Classic space warfare tactics. Classic? Every human military academy studies this kind of combat. We've been planning for it for decades. Veltar looked confused. You've planned for fighting an enemy you've never met? We've planned for fighting every kind of enemy we could imagine, and some we couldn't. Chun turned to her staff. Colonel Martinez, I want a full analysis of their attack patterns. Captain Thompson, start working on counter-tactics. Commander Singh, find me their weaknesses. Admiral, Veltar said desperately, our entire defense fleet is gone. Our colonies are being destroyed. How can 12 human ships stop what thousands of Confederation vessels could not? Chun looked at her with those hard human eyes. Because your ships were built for exploration, ours were built for war. Your people were trained for peaceful contact, ours were trained for hostile contact. But they outnumber you hundreds to one? Numbers aren't everything, Chun replied. Sometimes it's not about how many ships you have. It's about knowing how to use them. She turned back to the tactical display. Besides, the Confederation made one mistake. They assumed these void swarm. Things would fight fair. They expected honorable combat between civilized species. And you don't? Lady, where I come from, the only rule in a fight is to win. And if that means fighting dirty, lying, cheating, or hitting below the belt, then that's what you do. Chun activated the fleet communication system. All 12 human ships appeared on the display. Attention all vessels, she announced. We are now in a combat zone. The enemy has overwhelming numbers and superior firepower. Standard Confederation tactics have failed completely. She paused, looking at each ship captain. So we're going to show them something they've never seen before. We're going to show them how predators fight when their backs are against the wall. We're going to introduce the void swarm to human warfare. Admiral, called the sensor operator, enemy fleet detected. Bearing 045, range decreasing. Estimated time to contact, 6 hours, Chun nodded. All ships, prepare for combat. Today we find out if the galaxy's first apex predator species can take down a swarm of space locusts. She turned to Veltar 1. Final time. Ambassador, I suggest you get to the shelters. Things are about to get very unpleasant for the bad guys. As alarms began sounding throughout the station, Chen watched the enemy fleet approaching on her sensors. Thousands of black ships moving in perfect formation. An unstoppable swarm that had crushed everything in its path, but they had never fought humans before. They had never encountered a species that turned conflict into an art form. They had never met creatures that studied war the way others studied philosophy. The void swarm was about to leer. The void swarm filled the sensor screens like a dark cloud. Thousands of black ships moved in perfect formation toward Haven Point. On the bridge of the indomitable, Admiral Chun watched their approach with cold calculation. Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes, reported Captain Thompson. Admiral, they have us outnumbered 300 to 1. Good, Chun replied. That means they'll get overconfident. Ambassador Veltar stood behind the admiral's chair, her 6 eyes wide with terror. Admiral, perhaps we should retreat, regroup with any surviving Confederation forces. No, Chun said firmly. Running away just lets them destroy more innocent people. Today, the Void Swarm learns what happens when they pick a fight with the wrong species. She opened the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chun, execute Battle Plan Omega. Remember your training. Remember your species. Show these bugs what human warfare looks like. The 12 human ships broke formation. Instead of staying together like the Confederation forces had done, they scattered in different directions. Each ship moved on its own. Path unpredictable and fast. What are they doing? Veltar asked. Why are they separating? Because, Chane explained, the Void Swarm expects their enemies to fight in formation. All the Confederation fleets stayed together and got destroyed. We're going to fight like humans. How do humans fight? Like pack hunters, we work together, but we don't cluster together. Each ship has its own job. Each captain knows how to think for themselves. The Void Swarm reached weapons range and opened fire. Energy beams and explosive projectiles filled space. But the human ships were no longer where the enemy expected them to be. Direct hit on enemy formation, called the weapons officer. Multiple ships damaged, Chun smiled grimly. The first lesson of human warfare. Strike first, strike hard, strike where they don't expect it. The Void Swarm's response was immediate. Fighter craft poured out of the larger ships like angry insects. Thousands of small black vessels swarmed toward the human fleet. Here come the fighters, Thompson announced. Just like the intelligence reports. Perfect, Chun said. Captain Rodriguez, you're up. The human ship Cerberus suddenly changed course, diving directly into the fighter swarm. Its weapons opened. Fire in all directions. Instead of running from superior numbers, it charged straight at them. Is Captain Rodriguez insane? Veltar gasped. No, Shun replied. He's doing exactly what we trained for. The Void Swarm expects prey behavior. They expect their enemies to run from overwhelming force, but humans don't run from a fight. The Cerberus fired special weapons that exploded in clusters, destroying dozens of fighters at once. Other human ships moved to support it, creating a crossfire that the enemy couldn't escape. Enemy fighter formation breaking apart, reported the tactical officer. They're not used to targets that fight back this aggressively. But the victory was short-lived. More Void Swarm ships arrived. Massive vessels that dwarfed even the largest human cruisers. Their weapons could destroy a human ship with a single shot. Admiral, Thompson said urgently, we're taking heavy damage. The Washington is critical. The Mumbai has lost main power. Then it's time for the next lesson, Shun announced. All ships, execute scatter protocol. Show them how dangerous a wounded Predator can be. The human fleet split up even more. Ships that were badly damaged didn't retreat to safety. Instead, they turned toward the largest enemy vessels and accelerated to maximum speed. What are they doing? Veltar cried. Something the Void Swarm has never seen before, Chun replied. Ramming attacks. When a human ship can't fight anymore, it becomes a missile. The Washington, its hull breached and weapons failing, drove straight into the side of a massive Void Swarm capital ship. The explosion lit up space like a small star. Both ships were destroyed, but the human vessel took out something 10 times its size. Impossible, whispered Veltar. They sacrificed themselves. They chose to make their deaths count, Chun corrected. That's the difference between humans and prey species. When we're dying, we make sure to take some enemies with us. The battle continued for hours. The human ships used tactics the Void Swarm had never encountered. They pretended to retreat, then turned and attacked when the enemies followed. They hid behind asteroids and ambushed larger forces. They targeted the enemy's supply ships instead of fighting the warships directly. This is remarkable, Veltar said as she watched the tactical display. You're not fighting them ship to ship. You're fighting them like a war. Because it is a war, Chun replied. The Confederation tried to fight individual battles. We're fighting a campaign. But slowly. The human fleet was being worn down. Superior numbers were beginning to tell. One by one, the human ships were being destroyed or disabled. Admiral, Thompson reported grimly, we're down to 7 operational vessels. The enemy still has over 2,000 ships. Chun studied the tactical display. The Void Swarm was regrouping, learning from their losses. They were adapting to human tactics. Time for the final lesson, she announced. Captain Singh, are the civilian transport ships ready? Yes, Admiral. All Confederation. Survivors are aboard and ready for evacuation. Good. Send them toward the outer system, full speed. Admiral, Veltar said in confusion, are we retreating? No, Chun replied. We're saving lives. The first rule of human warfare, protect those who can't protect themselves. As the civilian ships fled toward safety, Chun opened a new communication channel, but instead of talking to her own fleet, she broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, Void Swarm, she announced. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Space Command. You have made a mistake. There was no response from the alien ships. They continued their attack formation. You came to this galaxy expecting to find prey, Chun continued. You found herbivores who run when threatened, creatures who hide when attacked, species who submit when overwhelmed. The human ships regrouped around the Indomitable. 7 vessels against 2,000. But today you met something different. Today you met Earth's children. We are not prey. We are not herbivores. We are the species that prey feared for millions of years. Chun's voice grew harder. You wanted to hunt in this galaxy? Fine, but understand something. Every human colony you attack we will make you pay for in blood. Every human ship you destroy, we will avenge tenfold. Every human life you take, we will remember." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You think you're the apex predator in this galaxy? You're wrong. That title belongs to humanity, and we're about to prove it." Chun turned to her weapons officer. "Fire everything we have at their command ship. All weapons, all missiles, everything." The remaining human ships unleashed every weapon they possessed. The Void Swarm's command vessel, caught off guard by the sudden fierce attack, exploded in a massive fireball. For the first time since the battle began, the Void Swarm hesitated. Their perfect formation wavered. Ships began moving in different directions, as if unsure what to do without central command. "That's the weakness," Chen realized. "They're a hive mind. Cut off the head and the body gets confused." But even confused, the Void Swarm still had overwhelming numbers. The battle was far from over, then new contacts appeared on the sensors. Ships jumping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, dozens of them, then hundreds. "Admiral," Thompson called out excitedly, "human reinforcements. The entire Terran defense fleet is jumping in." The cavalry had arrived. Every human ship from Earth, Mars, Europa, and the outer colonies. Every vessel humanity had built in their short time in space. "This is Fleet Admiral Harrison aboard the Enterprise," came a new voice over the radio. "Sorry we're late, Sarah. Traffic was murder getting here." Chun laughed, the first time she had shown emotion during the entire battle. "Better late than never, Jim. We've softened them up for you." The second wave of human ships crashed into the Void Swarm like a hammer. These vessels were fresh, undamaged, and ready for war. The alien formation, already confused by the loss of their command ship, began to collapse, but the humans weren't done teaching lessons. "All ships," Admiral Harrison announced, "execute the Torah's doctrine. No survivors, no escapes, no mercy." What followed was not a battle. It was an extermination. The human fleet surrounded the Void Swarm and systematically destroyed every single ship. When enemy vessels tried to surrender, they were ignored. When they tried to flee, they were hunted down. "Admiral Chun," Veltar said quietly, "your people are destroying ships that are trying to surrender?" "Yes," Chun replied without emotion. "That's the final lesson. When you attack innocent people, when you destroy peaceful colonies, when you act like space pirates and killers, you don't get to surrender. You get what you deserve." The battle ended 6 hours later. 2,000 Void Swarm ships had been reduced to floating debris. Not a single enemy vessel escaped in the aftermath. As human ships patrolled the system and rescued survivors, Admiral Chun met with the Confederation Council via hologram. "Admiral," High Counselor Murthak said, his tentacles trembling, "we cannot thank you enough. You saved our civilization." "We did what had to be done," Chun replied. "But understand something. This won't be the last time something like this happens. The galaxy is a dangerous place. You've been living in a bubble of safety, but that bubble has popped. What do you suggest?"